So we're doing mantra 4 now. You can get to 4 with the verse and the purport. Okay, so this verse, we're going to try, I'll chant one line and then everyone can repeat one line. Aneja lekam manaso javiyo.
Aneja lekam manaso javiyo.
Naina deva apnuvan purvam asat.
Naina deva apurvam purvam asat.
Tadavato nyan atyeti tistat.
Tadhavato anyan atyeti tistat. Tasmin apo matras visvadati. Anidharikam manusho javiyo. Naina deva apnuvan purvam asat.
Tadhavato nyan atyeti tistat.
Tadhavato anyan atyeti tistat. Tasmin apo matrarisvadati. Anijad ekam manasho jadivo. Nena devat apurvam purvam.
Tadhavato nyan atyeti tistat.
Tadhavato anyataniti tistat.
Tasmin apo matrarisvadati.
Tasmin apo matrarisvadati.
Anyone want to try chanting?
Anejad ekam manaso javyo.
Anejad ekam manasho javiyo.
Naina deva apunam purvam ashat.
Naina deva apurvam purvam.
Tadhavato anyataniti
Tadhavato anyataniti.
Tasmin apo matra
Tasmin apo matrarisvadati.
Anyone else? It's one of the harder ones.
Anejat ekam manasho javiyo.
Anejat ekam manasho javiyo.
Nena deva anu appanuvan purvam arshat.
Naina deva apnuvan purvam arshat.
Tadhavato anyan atyeti tishtat.
Tadhavato anyanati tishtat.
Tasmin apo matrarisvadati.
Tasmin apo matarishvadati.
Anejat manasho javiyo. Nena deva anapurvam arshat. Tadhavato anyan aneti tishtat. Tasmin apo matrarisvadati.
Anejad ekam manaso javyo.
Anejat ekam manasho javiyo.
Naina deva apnuvam purvam ashat.
Naina deva apurvam. Tadhavato anyan atyeti tishtat. Tasmin apo matrarisvadati.
Anejat.
Anejat.
Fixed.
Ekam.
Ekam.
One. Manasaha.
Manasaha.
Then the mind.
Then the mind.
Mind.
Javiya.
Javiya.
More swift.
More sweet.
Na.
No.
Not.
Not.
Ena.
Ena.
this Supreme Lord,
this Supreme Lord,
Devaha,
Deva,
Devaha,
demigods like Indra, etc.,
the demigods like Indra and
Apnuvan,
Apnuvan
can approach,
can approach
Purvam,
Purvam,
in
in front,
Arshad,
Arshad,
moving quickly,
moving
quickly,
Tat,
Tat,
He,
He,
Davata,
Davata,
those who are running,
those who are running,
Anyan,
Anyan,
others,
others,
Aditi,
Aditi,
surpasses,
surpasses,
Tistat,
Tishat,
remaining in one place,
remaining in one place,
Tasmin,
Tasmin,
in
in him,
Apaha,
Apaha,
rain,
rain,
Matarisva,
Matarisva,
the gods who control the wind and rain,
the God who controls the wind,
the Dati,
the Dati,
supply.
Supply.
Translation. Although fixed in his abode, the personality of God, it is swifter than the mind and can overcome all others running. The powerful demigods cannot approach him. Although in one place, he controls those who supply the air and rain. He surpasses all in excellence. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Through mental speculation, even the greatest philosopher cannot know the Supreme Lord, who is the absolute personality of Godhead. He can be known only by his devotees through his mercy. So before I even go any further, I'd like to make a comment on this mental speculation. So by mental speculation, you can actually come to the position of, possibly come to the Brahman understanding of the absolute truth. Brahmiti Paramatmiti Bhagavaniti Shabhyate. The supreme or the absolute truth is understood in three phases: Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. So by speculation, you can come to understand that ultimately everything, you bring it down to the atoms and smaller than the atoms, it's all these different particles. Ultimately, everything is the same. Everything in this material world is the same. Most of this whole cosmic manifestation, I think, is hydrogen. But there, of course, there's so many things. And then atom is divided up into different parts. There's electrons, neutrons, protons, and all these things. The electrons are going in circles, and it's actually most of the atom is just space. So there's just space. So even why doesn't one thing fall into another? Like you see it goes walk to a wall, you know. I mean, I've never seen it, but I've seen it in movies. But I'm sure it's true if it was in movies. So the atoms are all the same. The only difference with the electrons is the amount of them. There's no other difference. The electrons, neutrons, protons in an atom, in a hydrogen atom are the same, and in a lead atom or an aluminum atom. They're all the same, exactly. So in one sense, everything is the same, and you can come by mental speculation to understand that it's all Brahman. Everything is one. And you might even come to the conclusion that everything is one, and I'm part of everything, so I'm also everything, so I'm also one with everything, and I may even come to this conclusion that I'm God. So you can get that far by mental speculation. But by mental speculation, you'll never come to understand that God has a blackish, bluish form. He has hair that is black like crow feathers. He has a peacock feather in his hair. How are you going to come to this understanding? He has Shama Sundar, he has this three-fold bending form. He plays a flute. Where are you going to speculate and come up with this? It's like never going to happen. You will never get the characteristics. He has 64 different qualities. I mean, weird. It's not possible. How you can get that is only by bhakti, only by devotional service. Your brain can take you so far, and not very far. Even in here, with the speed of mind, you can't come to understand God. Now, how fast is the speed of mind? Think of where you lived in India, or think of someplace you visited in India. You can be there in just a moment. That's as fast as the mind goes. It can go so fast. But if you're going even at that speed, like from here to India in a split second or less, you can travel at that speed eternally, and you won't come to find Krishna. You can't come to him. And he can beat you running. If you see any races, Krishna can beat them all. Okay, so through mental speculation, even the greatest philosopher cannot know the Supreme Lord, who is the absolute personality of God. He can't be known only by his devotees through his mercy. In the Brahma Samhita 534, it is stated that even a non-devotee philosopher travels through space at the speed of the wind or the mind for hundreds of millions of years. He will still find the absolute truth is far, far away from him. So no matter how, you can't come to these conclusions. You can only come by this, and even Bhakti, where does the Bhakti begin? Even that begins by some special mercy. That Krishna sees there are some sincere souls, and he sends someone. He sends somebody, and then you treat that person nicely. Prabhupada, I was at Vyas Puja once, and Prabhupada was talking about, this was in New Vrindavan, and there was news reporters, it was real big, and he talked about, what can you do to please God? So, I mean, as devotees, you know what you can do to please God. But if you wanted a devotee, speculating, what can you do to please God? You know, you can't, what can you do? He's got everything. You know, you see people doing this yoga and putting themselves in a pretzel. You know, look at me, God. Oh, yeah. It's like, it's not gonna do anything. You know, the people they speculate what will please God. But Krishna, if you just, Prabhupada says, he sends his representative. And he gave the example of a rich man. What can you do to please a rich man, a multi-billionaire? What can you do to please him? He said, but if he has a son, and you pat his son nicely on the head, he's pleased. Or he said, if he has a dog, and you pet his dog nicely, he's pleased. And he says, similarly, I am like Krishna's dog. That's what he said. That we see that. But he's humility, you've seen that. And so basically, our way of pleasing Krishna is by pleasing his representative. He sends his representative here. And if we're kind to him, if we're nice to him, if we do something for him, Krishna becomes pleased. But just to try to please Krishna directly is absolutely nothing you can do. So material good activities are, in one sense, they're all bad. Any material activity is bad. Good or bad, they're all bad. And we can talk about that later if you want some more information. Because it's all, the only thing that's good is something that brings you to Krishna consciousness. Because that's transcendental. In other words, you do something good, then you have to get another body for something good to happen to you, another material body. So it's bad. Getting a material body is bad. The devotees say good karma or bad karma is all bad, because karma means a reaction. And any reaction you get, even if it's good, you inherit millions of dollars. That's good, but you have to get another material body to get that. We don't want that, so it's all bad. Anything, it's not good. And to do pious activity, unless you come to Krishna consciousness, that's the same thing. You're going to have good things happen to you in your next life. So what good is that? So unless you come to the transcendental position, it's all a waste of time. Anything in this material world. So once you come to that transcendental, so Krishna, he sees people are trying. They're making an effort. They really want to know me. And they're trying to do within their own estimation what to do. So he sends his representative. And then his representative, he only cares about what's pleasing to Krishna. And he knows what's pleasing to Krishna. And if he gets you to do something pleasing to Krishna, then he's pleased. And if he's pleased with you, Krishna is pleased with you. So, just going to read some more. So the Brahma Samhita 537 further describes that the absolute personality of Godhead has his transcendental abode, known as Goloka, where he remains and engages in his pastimes, yet by his inconceivable potencies, he can simultaneously reach every part of his creative energy. So he's in one place, and he can reach anywhere. He can do anything. I mean, this is what I don't understand. People who sometimes criticize some things in Krishna consciousness, like God can't do that. Why can't God do that? God can do anything. I mean, how can you have a understanding limiting what God can do? Because of your own tiny brain, you're trying to figure out what God can do. You have a tiny, tiny, insignificant brain. Even the smartest person in the world, his brain is nothing compared to someone who's transcendental, on the transcendental platform, because he sees reality. We mentioned the 4 defects. We mentioned yesterday 4 defects. Okay, and raise your hand if you know one of the defects. Okay, let's see, Russ.
Make mistakes.
Make mistakes. Some people. Most of you.
Pyari Prabhu doesn't make mistakes.
No, yesterday, when he mentioned that, I was thinking of the 4 defects, and that one I couldn't think of. And then I asked Jiva at the end, and she told me. And then I realized that's why I couldn't think of it, because I don't make mistakes. But I couldn't think of that one. So what is another one? What?
Fall in the illusion.
We're illusion. Everyone, we're all in illusion. The conditioned soul is an illusion. These are the 4 defects of the conditioned soul. Yes.
Propensity to cheat.
Propensity to cheat. Very good. And we have one more.
Incompleted senses.
What?
Incompleted sense.
Incomplete senses.
Imperfect sense.
Our senses are not
Not
perfect.
incomplete. Imperfect senses. Our senses are not perfect. They're limited. It's like I can't read. I can't read when it's quiet. I'll read a little bit like that. When it's a little further, I can't read. My senses are very. I can hear. Even dogs can hear much more than we can hear. So our senses are limited. And anything we create with our senses is also imperfect, because it's created with imperfect senses. So you may create a microscope and see things, but it's still not perfect. So these 4 defects, how are you going to understand the absolute truth? How are you going to understand Krishna is not only Krishna, but he's in Goloka, Vrindavan, and what his different pastimes are. His pastimes. Yet, by his inconceivable potencies, he can simultaneously reach every part of his creative energy. In the Vishnu Purana, his potencies are compared to the heat and light that emanate from fire. Although situated in one place, a fire can distribute its light and heat for some distance. Similarly, the absolute personality of Godhead, although fixed in his transcendental abode, can diffuse his different energies everywhere. So he's in one place, but his energies go everywhere. And the example is very good with the fire. The sun is fire, and we can feel that heat, especially today. And and we can certainly see the light. And we're way away from the sun. Any questions? That's the first paragraph. Any questions? Because better than going through the whole thing. We've got any questions now. So I'll try to go over each paragraph and see if there's questions. And you have permission to ask questions even of a previous paragraph. Although his energies are innumerable, they're innumerable, there's unlimited energies he has. They can be divided into three principal categories: the internal potency, the marginal potency, and the external potency. So to make it simple, so we can get some idea of his energies, they're divided into three categories. You can divide things in so many different ways. Like in scientists divide vertebrates and invertebrates. You know, they make different categories. So here, to make it simple, three energies. Internal energy, which is the spiritual energy. External energy, which is this material energy. It's external, not conscious. And then the marginal energy, which is the living entity, the soul. Now, why are we marginal? And I'm going to do your thing that you were doing. What is it?
That, go ahead. So we have the tendency we can go this way or this
Right, we
way.
go this way or that way. That's pretty much it. That's our choice. Which way you want to go? You know, and they have one of the signs is Libra. Libra is the scale, and they can think of just as many reasons to do this as to do that. So it's hard for them to decide. But we have a choice. We don't have a choice. We think we have a choice. We have one choice: to surrender to Krishna or to surrender to Maya. Now, if we surrender to Maya, everything is already there. You know, whatever's going to happen, it's going to happen. You think you got some choices. I'm buying this car instead of that car, but you're still going to get exactly the same amount of happiness and pleasure with whatever car you buy. It doesn't really matter. You think you have choices, but you don't have a choice. I remember telling somebody about, in magic, there's a thing called a force. A force means you force someone to pick a certain card, or you force someone to pick a certain color, or a certain country. They think they have a free choice, but you actually, you do certain things, you say certain things, and they always pick the same thing. Or in a card, you may force the card. They're going to get that card no matter what, when they tell you to stop, or whatever. That's called a force, and I was explaining that once to one devotee, and he says, "Oh, it's kind of like an election. You think you have a choice, but you really don't." I thought that was pretty good. So this is in the material world, when we surrender to Maya, we're forced to have certain amount of pleasure, certain amount of pain, and certain amount of bodies. But we do have a choice if we want to surrender to Krishna or to surrender to Maya. And the more, and even when we surrender to Maya, we have a choice whether we want to do good or we want to do bad. But in either choice, we're going to get reactions, and we're coming back to this material world. So that's your choice. And we have that choice, not just, oh, like some people may think, let me just surrender to Krishna and get it over with. It's not surrender and get it over with. It's surrendering from one moment to the next. Every moment I have to be surrendering. Oh boy, that's really hard. But it may be hard, it may seem hard because we're so conditioned. But actually, if you do it, it's ecstasy. You can't have better happiness and pleasure, even in the material. Even externally, if there's so many miserable conditions you're suffering, you're not affected by it. Your consciousness is somewhere else. It's in Krishna. So you're in ecstasy. Just like sometimes, I'm sure people who work hard sometimes with their hands, and you wind up getting cut. And sometimes you're so involved in your work that you don't even know you're bleeding until you see the blood. You didn't even feel the cut. So similarly, the external world you become a little callous to this external pains and pleasure. And you're just in a state of, well, Krishna consciousness, conscious of Krishna. Prabhupada talked about there's dog consciousness, there's cat consciousness, and out of all the different types of consciousness, Krishna consciousness is the best. You can think of Krishna, there's nothing better than that. So, but the thinking of Krishna is not just, oh, I thought of him and now I got on with my other things. It's every moment thinking of him. I mean, Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Now, this is the battlefield. Krishna's talking to Arjuna, and we have to accept what he's telling him. He means it. He's not just saying it figuratively. He says, in all your activities and for the results, just depend upon me. Work always under my protection. And in such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. How are you going to be fully conscious of God or fully conscious of anything when there's all these thousands of people trying to kill you? You know, you would think that would be hard, but that is the instruction Krishna gives. So even he's thinking of Krishna and he's fighting all these people thinking of Krishna. So if you can do it on a battlefield, you can do it when you go grocery shopping. You can do it anywhere, doing anything. You can do it while you're driving your car. You think of Krishna. Try to think of Krishna. When I was even before I moved into the temple, I was going to the temple every day, and I was chanting 16 rounds a day, following the regulated principles. But I still went home. I was living with my parents at that time, and I stayed there. So I didn't consider myself a devotee because I lived at home. So on that standard, none of you are devotees. But honestly, that's the way devotees felt at that time. Unless you live in a temple, you're not a devotee. Prabhupada, an Indian man, talked to Prabhupada once about that. Why do you have everybody live in the temple? He said, because they don't know anything about Krishna consciousness. They can't, whereas if you grew up with this, then you could live at home and still continue and be Krishna conscious. Although if you live in the temple, you really have an intense sadhana, and it sticks with you your whole life. So, I wasn't living in a temple. I forget where I lost my train of thought. It's only the first time, and most of the class is over, so that's pretty good. So I was talking about. Oh yeah, now I remember. That at that time, I remember we used to, we'd have a bottle of soda or something and say, not as devotees, but before being devotees, would you like a sip? And we give them a sip, and you take a sip of soda or whatever it is, take a sip, S-I-P. So the devotee said, you take a sip of Krishna. That's his service, instructions, and pastimes. If you think of any of these three things, it's Krishna conscious. If you think of your service, how you're going to do your service, or you're working at your service, you're meditating on your service, that's Krishna consciousness. If you're thinking of the instructions Krishna has given, the instructions Prabhupada has given, that's Krishna conscious. If you're thinking of the pastimes of Krishna, that's Krishna conscious. So you have to take a lot of sips of Krishna all day long, and that's Krishna conscious. So. Okay, the lowest energies, we got to the three categories: marginal potency and external potency. There are hundreds and millions of subheadings to each of these categories. The dominating demigods who are empowered to control and administer such natural phenomena as air, light, and rain are all classified within the marginal potency of the absolute person. Lesser living beings, including humans, like you people out there, also belong to the Lord's marginal potency. The material world is the creation of the Lord's external potency, and the spiritual sky, where the kingdom of God is situated, is the manifestation of his internal potency. That was the second paragraph. Any questions on anything? Yes?
Prabhu, I think that, can you go up a little bit?
What?
No, I'm asking.
You had a question for him?
No. Question for you,
But he want to point
can you
out
read
there.
the paragraph one more time?
Does he know? Was he doing it?
Yeah, he's doing it. Okay, so I think, here. Now hold on. See, I think it says here, I think you read the rain, cloud, those are also marginal potency. Yes.
Okay. I think it was the people in charge of them, or the marginal potency.
Are you in charge of?
The dominating demigods who are empowered to control and administer such natural phenomena as air, light, and rain are all classified in the marginal potency.
Means
Talk about
demigods.
the demigods.
Demigods.
And then you lesser living beings like humans. You belong to the marginal potency too, so you should feel good about yourself. You're in that same category as the demigods, even though you're just a human. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
I have a comment. You were saying that Arjuna was thinking about Krishna all the time on the battlefield because everyone was trying to kill him.
No. That's not what I was saying. I said, how is it possible when everyone's trying to kill you to not be fighting this and doing that? But he was thinking of Krishna simultaneously when he was fighting. Not that's why he was thinking of Krishna.
But if you're on the battlefield and you're, basically if everyone is trying to kill you, you would be thinking of Krishna all the time.
Well, if there's a pause in the fighting, you certainly think of Krishna.
But even in English, there's a saying, there are no atheists in foxholes.
In the foxhole, you're in the foxhole, you don't want to get out of the foxhole, so you're praying to God. You're not fighting. You're not, can you picture fighting with so many people coming at you, shooting arrows and shooting stuff at you? You're going to be concentrating on, breaking them out. I mean, that's what a normal person would do. He's not at that time when he's intensely saving his life. You don't think of anything else. It's just kind of instinct. But he was thinking of Krishna because he's doing what Krishna said. Krishna said that that's what he should do, and I'm sure he was doing it. But so simultaneously, you can do whatever your service is, even for your family or whatever it is, and you could be thinking of Krishna. Prabhupada gave the example of a paramour. Somebody, this woman has a husband when she's serving her husband, but at the same time she's thinking of her paramour, her lover. She's thinking of her lover. And Prabhupada says when in that condition, she does her service even nicer.
Nice.
She does everything so nice for her husband, but she's thinking of this other. So that's the way we should be thinking of Krishna. We should do whatever we're doing for family, for friends, for work, but the whole time we're thinking of Krishna. I mean, it's easier said than done, but we have to start trying. That's all we have to do is try. I mean, you can't do anything else but try. The results are up to Krishna. But if you make the effort, Krishna will reciprocate. Especially if we make the effort to surrender to him, he will reciprocate. He's not going to, say, oh no, I don't care about you. He loves every one of us and he wants us to be happy, and this is the only thing that's going to make us happy. And if we make that effort, he certainly will reciprocate. Reciprocation is with realization. Reciprocation is ecstasy. You may experience some ecstasy of surrendering to Krishna. There's different ways he reciprocates, and that makes our faith stronger. So, but if we just keep everything on the way it's going and not making a conscious effort, we may not feel much at all. We have to really try to surrender, to do what Krishna wants. So on the battlefield, I can see, I understand what you're saying, but that's only if there's a pause in the fighting. Then you Krishna, oh God, please help me get out of this mess. And then somebody comes and, with a bayonet and you're in the foxhole, you're not, oh God, help me, give it to this guy. No, you immediately react. It's natural. Yes.
But Prahlad Maharaj didn't react in that situation.
What?
Prahlad Maharaj, he did not react in that
He
situation.
did not what?
Reacted in that situation. He was fully dependent on.
Yeah, he was 5 years old. What is he going to do? Get about the most powerful person in the universe. So he just surrendered to Krishna,
Yeah.
and And you can do that too. You can say, Krishna, if you want me to live, no one can kill me. If you want me to die, no one can save me. So I'm not going to even try to save myself. And then whatever Krishna wants will happen. But if you want to live, you may want to do something. You're not ready for that. You can't artificially say it. You have to really be fully dependent on Krishna. He had no other shelter. Draupadi, the same thing. Draupadi was trying to protect herself from Saribhi, and she saw she can't do it. So she just surrendered. Hey Krishna, hey Govinda, picked up her arms, and Krishna came and she just accepted. Let them, if they want to take it off, whatever. I'm just surrendering to Krishna. So you can get to that point too, where you can see no matter what you try, it's not working. So therefore, Krishna, I'm going to surrender to you. And Krishna reciprocates with his devotees. Oh, that was a confirmation. Okay, any other questions? I don't know if I have time even to read another paragraph.
7-8 minutes.
What?
7 to 8 minute time is there.
I could read another paragraph. I hate to not finish, but I'm not going to be able to finish. Okay. Thus, the different energies of the Lord are present everywhere. Although the Lord and his energies are non-different, one should not mistake these energies for the supreme truth. Okay, so this now, Krishna is not different from his energies. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught us, Chintya Veda Veda Tatra, that Krishna is non-different, but yet he is different. It's inconceivably, simultaneously, one with and different from everything, from all those energies. He's one with his energies, but he's also different with it. And if you don't understand it, that's fine, because it's inconceivable. That's a Chintya Veda Veda Tattva. Chintya means inconceivable, so it's hard to really understand. But you can get some understanding that he is different from his energies. He's in his abode all the time, but his energies are everywhere, and yet the energies are not different from him because they're coming from him. Everything that comes from him is the same, but simultaneously, inconceivably different. Any question on that sentence? of the paragraph. Okay. Although the Lord and his energies are non-different, one should not mistake these energies for the supreme truth. Nor should one wrongly consider that the Supreme Lord is distributed everywhere impersonally, or that he loses his personal existence. Okay, so he's not, it's not like, okay, now Krishna expanded into all this, and now Krishna doesn't exist anymore, because now we have all this. Prabhupada gave the example of a piece of paper. If you have a piece of paper, and you rip it into 100 pieces, you have 100 pieces. You don't have the original piece. But Prabhupada said in spiritual mathematics, you would rip it into 100 pieces, and you still have the original piece. That's spiritual. Prabhupada says spiritual math is 1 plus 1 equals 1. 1 minus 1 equals 1. So Krishna can expand into all these things and doesn't lose anything. And that's in the first verse.
Yes.
No, the invocation, not the verse, not the first verse. In the invocation, Om Punamanaha Punamidam Punat Punamudachate Punasya Punamadaya Punameva Vashishate. The personality of God is perfect and complete. He's perfect and complete. And because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. So everything is in this material world that's needed to sustain it. Okay? Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself, because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. He still doesn't change anything. So that's an invocation of this. Okay, where are we up to? So, one should not mistake these entities, nor should one consider that the Supreme Lord is distributed everywhere, impersonally, or that he loses his personal existence. Men unaccustomed to reading conclusions according to their capacity for understanding, but the Supreme Lord is not subject to our limited capacity for understanding. Let me read that again. Men are accustomed to reaching conclusions according to their capacity for understanding, but the Supreme Lord is not subject to our limited capacity for understanding. It is for this reason that the Upanishads warn us that no one can approach the Lord by his own limited potency. So you can't approach the Lord by your limited potency, that Krishna, by your tiny brains, because you can't understand something doesn't mean it can't happen or it doesn't exist. Just like a little kid who may be in, I don't know what grade, first grade, kindergarten, whenever they just start learning subtraction, whatever grade that is, and you try to tell them now, like for instance, 5 minus 7, and they say you can't do that. You can't, because they don't have any idea of negative numbers. So that's just one gross example of how we're so limited. We may be really smart compared to a bunch of humans. Like in this purport, we're only humans. Even the lower class humans are of the marginal potency. So we can't. Our brains are just we can't do this. We can't understand that which is transcendental by using our material, mundane brains. Okay, maybe one more question, or else we can end, or comment. Yes?
So, the example what you gave regarding having a piece of paper and breaking into 100. So, its example is given in Brahma Samhita, that the original light, you can lit hundreds of lights, but the original candle is the one which is like remains the same. So Supreme Personality can be.
Yeah, that might be a little different, because they're talking about expansions of Krishna.
Yeah.
We're talking about the material, even just the material expansion of Krishna. Any of his energies. But that might apply, but
Yeah.
all those lights are the same. They're all one candlelight power. But yet one was the original. But that's talking about incarnations. Vishnu Tattva. We're talking about just the material creation. What's that noise? I didn't know all noise was just
His Grace Pyari Mohan Prabhu ji ki.